this week?
Yeah.
All right.
Say what?
Hopefully this week.
Yeah, this week for sure. That's why I'm up early. So
Yes. So this is good, right? Let's start on the weekly. As we normally do. And on the weekly, it's still very much bullish. I would say we should see price reach. Ooh, that's strange. You're still using the same broker IC markets, right?
yeah.
All right. On the weekly, we're going to start by, we still have the last week's high. Let's change the color. All right, we're still looking at the weeks. Can you see these weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if price is still bullish, I'm thinking it has to react to those weeks. And if it's going to go any lower, those are the weeks that it will reject. But if it doesn't reject those weeks, then we should see price at least reach the next high, which is around this area, before it even does this week fill. So before it does this week fill, it has to respect or break this high. First respect and then break this high. Remember what we discussed last week? When a play is a long week like this one, right? There's two resistances or support. The first resistance, that price where the candle closed, and then the next one is the one that price left on the week, the one that it rejected on the week.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm thinking price is still very much bullish, and if we look at the daily candle, on the daily candle, it looks like it's going to keep on rising. I don't think it's gonna drop. I don't know if you can see it, because last week's candle, right, it did what it did the previous week. If you have noticed,
Right.
you see this area right here. Price did exactly what it did that time, because we can see how price. You can see how price pushed higher, right? And then it ranked, and then it pushed higher. And we can see today price pushed lower, right? And then it pushed higher. And then the action that I'm saying it's very similar, right, would be this candle right here. This candle right here, right? You can see it with this candle right here, right? So price made a strong bullish candle, and then it made one strong bearish candle that was retesting, but failed to close lower, and then we had price pushing all the way up, right? Which is exactly the same as what price did last week. Price pushed higher, made the bearish candle for the retest, and then we have a bullish move that's happening. So we can actually expect price to keep on rising until it reaches our next level.
Okay.
Yes, because it's repeating the same action, so we can only expect it to keep on repeating the same thing, and that is for it to go higher.
All right.
Yes. So I can say price is still in a bullish trend right now.
Okay.
All right. So before we move on to the 4-hour time frame, right now it looks like it's sort of rejecting this high this week right here. It hasn't really rejected it yet, but it looks like it's creating some sort of a resistance at this week. Or if it breaks this week, right, then we can see price pushing higher. So we're going to go on the 4-hour time frame, and then on the 4-hour time frame, we're going to look for the previous structure, the last structure that we saw on this pair, that was this low, right? So we have this low, but before this low, we also have price breaking structure around this area, and it never retested. Remember, what it breaks, gold always retests. So we still need to see price coming back down to retest this area. And I would say, let's put a zone there, right here, because price broke out, but it hasn't actually retested. So if we want to actually enter for the buys that the daily time frame is showing us right over here, right, to fulfill this space that we have right here, I would say you have to watch price to come back and retest, and then when it's starting to push higher, then we can expect price, we can actually enter price to push higher with it. So I would say our retest, you can see where it will end on the 1 hour time frame. So on the 1 hour time frame, right, we're looking for the best area that price can actually reverse and then start pushing higher. And we can say that would be, let's say, technically it would be this area right here, the 1842, because that is the initial area that it needs to retest, as you can see right here, right? However, I would also say price could drop all the way to this low.
Okay.
Yes, because if price is going to drop right before it pushes higher, this would be the last low that it needs to respect for it to keep being a bullish trend. If it breaks this low, then it has broken two supports. That means the trend has changed. So this is the last low that we need to see price respecting. So I wouldn't mind seeing price dip all the way down here. If it ends on this resistance, that's fine. But if it dips all the way down here, then we can see price coming to reject this area, and then it will push higher. So you just have to watch out for what it does here. Because now this is a good low that price created, and we need to watch it break this law or respect this law for it to tell us what's going to go next, what's going to happen next, right? And then for this moment, for this morning, we might actually have something that you could trade if you want to. So this is the 30-minute time frame. The 1 hour time frame is not telling us much on this area, so I'm going to move on the 30-minute time frame. What I can say from the 1 hour time frame right now, right, is price rejected with this candle, right? And then this candle, the next bullish candle, right, tried to invalidate the rejection. But if the candle that's printing right now closes bearish, right, that's a good area to enter buys, to enter sales, expecting price to, I'm going to move on a 30-minute time frame now, so that we can see where we can exit our trade. Every time you enter a trade, you have to know where you're getting out of your trade. So I would say our stop loss is just above this high, right? That's fine. It's not a best stop loss. But if this 1 hour candle manages to close bearish, I would say your first TP is this week fill. And then if price manages to close below this area, right? Because I'm thinking price could dip down, complete the week fill, and then push higher. So that's why I'm saying if price manages to close below this low, right, if you don't enter when this 1 hour candle closes and you want to wait and be sure, then you're waiting for price to close below this 1 hour, this low, right, that price created. And then
all right, let me put it. I will mark this one.
What did you say?
I will mark this. I will mark this area.
Yes.
So that
Yes, so you want price to close below that area, right? But when it closes below that area, right, there are two things that you have to keep in mind and also consider, right? So the first thing is we're watching this low, right? So the first thing is we are watching if price creates one bearish candle that will close below this low, right? If it creates one bearish candle that closes below this low, then you're waiting for price to pull back up to retest and then when it starts pushing lower, when you see that price has rejected this area that it has to retest, or even if it comes to reject this high again, as long as it starts pushing back lower and it's about to break this low again, and or you're seeing some bearish pressure, right, then you can enter. However,
Okay.
if price doesn't create one strong bearish candle that closes below this low, right, then you're watching to see, is price created, let's say 1, 2 candles, or even a third candle closing below the low, or has price created a bearish candle and then a bullish candle and then another bearish candle that closes below the low.
Okay.
Because this is now telling us if it's right to enter the moment it closes below, or if we should wait for price to retest first and then it can push lower and then keep on pushing lower, because this is the only low that we need price to break for us to catch a trade that will reach here.
Okay.
Because high chances, if price closes below this low, it's gonna come here, retest the opening price before it pushes any higher.
Okay.
Yes. So I would say we need at least one candle that closes below. If we don't get one candle that closes below, then you're just waiting to see how did price push lower, because we need a new high that it will retest before it can push lower. So if it creates one candle, it's gonna come back to retest this low that it would have broken. But if it creates multiple candles, right, then possibly it will create a new high that it will come to retest before it can push lower.
I'll write that down.
Yes. So I would say for now, we do have a trade, but for that trade to happen, we need price to close below and then it will push lower. So I would say maybe something like this, and then we need price to come back up and then it can push lower. Yeah, something like that. However, it looks like the 1 hour candle is not going to close bearish though. It looks like it might close bearish. Still got time. It still has time to only 47 seconds for it to close bearish. The thing is, it looks like it's going to close bearish. However, it's not closing bearish below. So that means price is now consolidating between the range of those two candles.
Yeah.
But in this consolidation, right, it might be a very small consolidation, but as much as it's a very small consolidation, that means price cannot close above this high. So it can do whatever it wants, right, around this area, but it cannot close above this high, because the moment it closes above this high, it's invalidating the setup, right? So it is invalidating the setup. At the same time, it will be good to watch this area right here. So it did create a new lower high right here, right? However, I'm trying to say price could, we all know it's gold, price could push out, right, to touch this area and then come back into our or smaller range. So as long as if price does come back, if it does push up, right, to touch this area, it still needs to come back to close below this high that it created. It cannot close in this range. If it closes in this range, then it's sort of invalidating our setup, because now it has higher chances of breaking the initial high that we need price to respect.
Okay.
So if you had entered at the low, it would be best to watch price when price breaks, when it closes in this area above our lower high, right? It would be best not to be in any trade and wait for it to actually break the high or finally break the low, because right now it hasn't, it's just consolidating.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's what we have on gold. We can expect gold to do something like, let's say, let's put a low over here. I think this is the initial low that we are watching for a max. This is a trade from here. It's a good trade if you don't want to enter from here, but this would be a good low to enter at when price breaks that low. So we can say maybe we're expecting price to do something like this. We need price to come right close below, come back to retest, and then it can push lower. Yeah, I think that's what we have on gold. We might get that on gold. All right, so let's look at GBP USD next. Oh, that's that. All right, we'll start on the weekly time. That is not mine. All right, we're going to start on the weekly time frame. All right, so the weekly time frame, it did push higher. It's showing us some bullish structure, and chances are we might even see price push to complete this weak fill. So we have a weak fill right here that price needs to close up, that price needs to complete, and then we have last week's low. Those are the most important things. All right, so after last week's low, let's look at the daily. We have the high that last week created. So if price is going to complete the week fill, it needs to break. It needs to break above on our next resistance, and then we have this low following our theory of if price is a long wick, that means it has two supports or two resistances, right? And then on the 4-hour time frame,
what do you mean with two supports and two resistance?
the concept, if price closes with a long wick, I'm saying on the daily time frame, right? We can see that there's an area that price broke out of, right? And rested. That's last week's low, right? That's the one that the week gave us. And then there is the low that where price closed at. So that would be this low, right?
Yeah.
And then we have the second low right here. It's following that whole theory of if price closes with a long wick, we have two supports or two resistances that you have to watch out for. So you have the first resistance that price closed at, and then you have the second resistance, the wick that it left, the high or the low of that wick.
Okay.
Because when price comes and breaks this one, let's say it closes above this one, right? For it to actually continue going, it also has to break above this one.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same thing. Let's say if you are looking at the low, at the support, this is the first support where price closed, and then this is the second support, the low of the week. Because if price breaks this one, it's going to complete a weak fill here, come back to retest, and then it's going to want to continue going lower. So it has to break below the wick for it to actually continue going lower.
Okay.
All right, so on the daily time frame, it looks like we had price push higher, right? And then it ranged, and then it pushed higher, and then it came back to retest. So we could expect price to push all the way higher and complete the weak fill. So since we have that in mind, since we are expecting some sort of a bullish move on the daily time frame, we can say on the 4-hour time frame, let's see what is taking on the 4-hour time. So on the 4-hour time frame, we're going to move this low, right? And then since this one is in clean traffic, we're going to move it all the way down here. So if price breaks this low, this is last week's low. This is the low that last week created. If it breaks this low, we can expect price to come all the way down here. So what we're saying now is on the 4-hour time frame, I'm not going to put any zone right here. I'm going to move on the 1-hour time frame, right, where things are much more clearer. And then I'm going to say we have a resistance right here, right? Because last week price ranged here and then it broke out, price pushed all the way down, right? It didn't retest the breakout that happened right here. So we can say price pushed higher to retest and then it can push lower for another retest that it had created the week before, if it does break this low. But if it doesn't break this low, price could just come back to this low, or it could, since we're saying on the daily time frame our price is still bullish, right? We could say price is retest, it will retest because we have a low that was created right here, right? So we could say price might break out of this low, right, to come back, let's say to retest around this area and then push up. So it's not much of a retest but a retracement to create structure to push price higher.
Okay.
Yes, so that means we have this support and this support that is watching. So price can come back to this support, right? And then if it does break this support, it will drop to this low, but it needs to break this low for it to continue dropping. For it to continue going higher, if it does reach this low, it needs to respect this low for it to continue going high, because this is also where our order block is.
Okay, so so we are waiting for it to break both of the lows?
Well, not exactly waiting for it to break both of the lows, right? But we want it to at least, if it does drop, right, to at least get to this area. If it does break this low and the structure that is creating it, to get to this area, right, and then respect it for it to push higher. But if it doesn't respect it and then it comes back down and breaks this low, right, then we know it's invalidating the buy setup that we have on the daily time frame. Because remember, on the daily time frame we said price pushed higher, right? It pushed higher and then it dropped to retest, and since it rejected here, this could be the push higher to complete the weak fill, right? But for it to complete the weak fill, it has to break above this side that we already know. So we're saying since we have this setup, right, having this setup, we also have this setup where price could have been, let's say if you look at this, price pushed higher and then it came down, right, and then it tried pushing higher. So price could easily be, you can see how it's respecting this high. Price could easily just be retesting this high for it to push lower.
Okay.
So when it breaks our second support, right, that is telling us that price has high chances of dropping on a bigger time frame. So that would lead us to the weekly time frame. Let's see what we have on the weekly time frame. Sorry about the lines. On the weekly time frame, it is also screaming bullish, but we can say let's count our Elliott wave and let's try to see where we are. We could say this was 1, 2, 3, and then we could have 4 and then 5. So if we're saying this is a 5 wave, right, that means we could have A, B, C for price to keep on pushing lower. Yeah, so there are two two biases. So all we need is to see price either respecting or breaking the last support. So that's where your swing trading comes in. Because remember
Okay.
remember you said you would like to do more swing trading.
Yeah, but not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore.
All right, so then you just have to wait for the price to break this low, for it to drop to this low. That's it.
Yeah.
Because
All right.
that's
Gotcha.
more likely going to happen.
Gotcha.
Especially with the fact that price, you see, early in the morning when I actually woke up to check what was happening in the markets, right? You can see how price was pushing lower. Let's go on the 15-minute frame. All right, this is our 15-minute time frame. So earlier this morning, price was actually pushing low, because this is price opened here, right? And then it pushed higher, but then price was pushing lower. You can see how price was pushing lower, right?
Yeah.
And then before London opened, right, it did this push higher. So I can say this was the retest of the high, right? So if price wanted to go higher, it would have gone higher here. It would have gone higher here. You see how price pushed up but still came back to close below. Price pushed up but still came back to close below. So that was only pushing price lower. And then this candle is the one that's telling us that price is high chances of pushing lower, right? So we could have easily said, okay, now this candle is a retest. So since price pushed higher, this candle was a retest. Since it rejected, left us a long way, right, to push price all the way, to keep on for price to keep on rising, right? We could say that. We will keep that in mind, right? However,
we will keep what in mind?
as in, you can see how price was pushing lower, right? And then it rejected the low, and then price pushed higher, right?
Yeah.
So I was saying, if price wanted to push higher, we should have seen it push higher.
Yeah.
We should have seen price push higher right here and right there on those
So 2 times.
yes, 2 times. It could have pushed higher on any of those 2 times, right? But price didn't. So I'm saying, since price didn't push higher during those times, right, we are saying price is now higher chances of pushing lower, especially if this candle closes bearish. Then that's telling us that price might push lower instead, because price was already pushing lower before London session opened, right? And then when London session opened, that's when we have price pushing lower again, because it was retesting the high right here. And if it wanted to break out, it would have broken out by then.
Yeah.
But it didn't. So I'm saying, since it didn't, we should see price push lower. This candle, right? You see this the previous candle, the one that's printing right now, the one before that. So I'm saying the one before that, right, could have been a retest for price to push higher, because we could simply say this was an impulse, this was a correction for price to push higher. So for that to actually be true, right, we would need this candle that's printing right now to close bullish. So if the candle that's printing right now was to close bullish, right, then we can say price is pushing higher. Was now that the one previous would then become a retest.
Okay.
Because it touched the bottom and it pushed back up. So since it pushed back up, that was it rejecting the low. But for that rejection to stay valid, this candle that's printing right now needs to close bullish. But if it closes bearish, then that's telling us that price is higher chances of dropping. So if the candle that's closing right now closes bearish, then, and if it closes, let's say if it doesn't close below our low, if it doesn't close below our low, right, then we are saying this low, then we are saying we will wait for it, for price to create a new high. So we'll expect price to come back, create a new high right here, and then push lower. So it's the same thing as gold. You want this candle to close bearish. After it closes bearish, you want to see a bullish candle. After that bullish candle, that's high, that's a high, a new resistance being created that will push price lower.
Okay, so this one should close bearish, then it
Yes.
should
Yes.
go,
Close bearish.
okay, and then go up to retest, or?
When it goes higher, right, let me check on the 15-minute time frame. So when it goes higher, I'm saying maybe it can retest around this area and this area. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, so it's the same thing as gold. So after you see it coming up, when you see it rejecting, as long as it does not close above our high right here, when you see it pushing lower with bearish pressure, then you know that's your entry. But it's also
Okay.
it's also the same thing is, let's say this candle closes bearish and below our low right here, right? Our low right here. Also, all you want to see is price pushing higher a little bit, and then you enter when it starts pushing lower.
Gotcha.
But let's say the chances are that price closed below, right, and then it just pushed lower without you having a chance to enter, right? Then don't look for sells, because if it pushes lower and then it rejects this low and it comes back to close back in the range, then you're no longer looking for sales, you're now looking for buys to complete that setup that we have of the buyers.
Yeah.
Yes. So you just need to see like how the price action prints out. Because if it pushes lower with one candle that reaches this area and then price rejects and then it pushes back into the range, right, then that's telling us that price is most likely going to push higher. But if it doesn't and it does the correct pattern or the correct structure that we look for in a trade, then that's your sell setups. Yes.
Okay.
So right now, let's say you are waiting for price to do something like this. We wanted to do something like this, close, something like this. That's what we wanted to do. All right.
Okay.
If you look to your left, right, this is how you see where you can expect price when it closes below, where you can expect it to close below before it pushes higher. Do you see it to your left? Do you see these wicks right here?
Yeah.
All right, so when we say we're expecting it to close below our support, right, you're watching these weeks. These are the weeks that you can expect. So if you see price closing in those weeks, right, you know that what you're expecting is happening, because that's the air that we're saying will give it a minor support for it to push a little bit up, create a new resistance that we need for price to push lower. So these weeks shouldn't worry you that much. But if you see price reacting to them, then you know that's what you want to happen.
Gotcha.
Those are the ones that help you, that help price create the new support, the new resistance that pushes price lower. Yes. I think that's all for GU. But price does look bearish. Okay, which pair do you want us to do next?
Maybe Euro USD.
Euro USD. All right. Let's start with our weekly time frame. Okay, the weekly time frame, it closed bearish, but it was rejecting, but it did close bearish though. It rejected the low, but it closed bearish. That's already a bad sign. All right, so we have the high that it's respecting right here. And if it does break out, we have a weak fill. That would be your target. If it does do a bullish breakout. If it doesn't, then you are watching the low of last week. Then let's go on the daily. I don't think I have what I'm expecting for it on the weekly time frame. I would say on the weekly time frame, it still looks bullish. But last week's candle, if last week's candle it closed bullish, that would be better. But then it closed bearish, so that means we might see price consolidating around the high and this low. The same thing that it did. If you look to your left, you see this area right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are saying price could do the same thing around here.
Okay.
I would expect price to complete this week fill. If last week's candle it closed bullish, but it closed bearish, so that tells me that we could consolidate around that area. All right, so we'll keep that in mind. Now let's go on our daily time frame. Our daily time frame, we have a resistance that was created right here, and then we'll keep the low. Yeah, not much is going on Euro USD. When I have to go on the lower time frames, yeah, on the daily time frame, we could also say it's bullish in a way, but this resistance is strong. Yeah, the resistance is strong, but it is bullish, but the resistance is strong.
Mm-hmm.
The 4-hour time frame. All right, the 4-hour time frame, we have the high that it created last week and this week. I think, right? And then just going to adjust this. Just going to adjust this, right? And then we're also going to adjust this. All right. Price could consolidate around this area. The reason why I'm saying price could consolidate, right, is even if we go on the 1-hour time frame. This is the 1-hour time frame, right? So when you go on the 1-hour time frame, it's much more clearer. We have a low that was created right here. We have this high, right? And then on the low, we have can you see our previous 1-hour candle?
Yeah.
So price, this was a bullish move from last week, right? And then price ended up creating this resistance, right? And the resistance seems like it's holding even from weeks before that. You can see how right here it created a small bullish candle that was creating the resistance, and then it retested, got rejected, retested. If price wanted to go higher last week, it could have gone, but it didn't. If today it wanted to go higher, it could have gone, but it didn't. So it created a very nice rejection candle on our 1 hour time frame. So we can say price made a high, rejected that high, it dropped, creating a new low. It did create a new low because last week's low was right here, and then price, sorry, that was not clear. Last week's low was right here, and then price broke. It created a new low right here. So price did create a new low, and then it retested the high, which got rejected by this candle. So now we're saying price can actually go lower all the way to this area. So now it just, so now it just has to break the low of our previous candle and then push all the way to this area. I would say this is a clean trade. This is an easy setup because it's also an easy setup for the fact that even when you set your stop loss, right, all you need to do is put your stop loss above this candle, right? And even if you don't put it above that candle, if you put it above our high of the range, right, just to be careful, that means price has to respect the high of our previous candle before it even gets to your stop loss. So it's a very clean trade.
So wait, so where do I put it? What?
Your stop loss.
Which number was it?
I would put it at let's see, let me see. I would put it at maybe around 1.21544.
1.2. 544.
Yes, 1.21544.
1544.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the only, it's not even the only thing, but that's what structure is telling us. And then your take profit, I would put it on 1.21118.
1.21. 1.21, 118.
Yes.
All right.
I think that is the only thing that could, let's see, what could ruin this trade. Even if you go on the 15-minute time frame, we can say price dropped, close below. This could be a retest. Price could be creating a new high right here, but I would say so far it looks clean. As long as the 1 hour candle, all we need is for this 1 hour candle to close bearish, and it's a clean trade because it only has one low, it only has one minor low to break, and it looks like if it's going to range, it's going to range between the high and the low of our previous candle, right? So even if we are entering now, it has to break the previous high, the previous high of the last 1 hour candle, and that can only push if it rejects, that's only pushing price lower. Yeah, if it rejects, that's only pushing price lower. So we could, so that's what I'm saying, like it's a clean trade. All we need is for this 1 hour candle to close bearish, and it's a clean trade.
Okay.
Yes. If it doesn't close bearish, as long as it closes below the high of our previous 1 hour candle, it has chances of dropping. Yes. So I would say, if you don't enter right now, I would say you want price to break. So whatever it does now, right, if it's going to range around this area, as long as price comes to break this low on the 30-minute time frame, that's your first sign, because that would be our first support that's being broken, and the initial low that we also wanted to break, that would be our second support that's being broken. That would definitely drop price to where we want it to reach.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, but I think that's all on Euro USD. I actually think it's going to range, it's going to drop all the way to this low. You see this?
Yeah.
And then it's gonna drop, let's say, somewhere to this area. So if you wanted, you could enter with one more trade that you put on break even, for if you want to catch the whole drop.
Yeah.
Because I feel like price is going to range on the 4 hour time frame. You can see our 4 hour time frame. This is our 4 hour time frame, right? If price is creating a new high right here, that means it's most likely going to complete the drop to our support of our range. And considering that the trade that we are looking for is a wick fill, do you see this wick?
Yeah.
So the trade that we are looking for is actually a wick fill. Was we're saying if price breaks structure, right, it has to do the wick fill, right? And if it manages to stay around this area, it's most likely going to drop again to complete the clean traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I'm saying, I think it's gonna actually drop a little bit more before it goes any up. We might do that. We might see it do that. All right, I think we should watch those three for today. Let's see what GP USD did. All right, so on the 30-minute time frame, it closed bearish. So it's only left with this 30-minute time frame for the 1 hour candle to close bearish, but so far it looks good. If this 30-minute time frame closes bearish also, we might see price drop.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, we might see price drop.
Nice.
All right, I think that's it for today.
Yeah, I will be watching these. Very, very helpful. Thank you.
All right, it's only 3 things, so I think you might be able to catch something today.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Sure.
All right, I hope you have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much. Nice session. We'll speak to you tomorrow.
Sure.
All right.